We're back at it again in our video series with the Talk team, doing our talks. This time we're with Ricardo, our head of growth marketing, on the topic of SEO. So I'm not sure of the exact order of how these are going to roll out, Rick. So maybe if we just do a quick recap before we dive into the SEO juice, because I know everyone will be keen on this one. Can you just give us a very, very quick 30-second summary of what you've done prior to Talk and what you're doing at Talk now?
Sure. So my background is on computer science. I have it's a very technical background. I've been a programmer for the most part of my professional career, which started in 2010. And then I decided that this was no longer what I wanted to do, so I wanted to move away from it. And I decided to turn a long time hobby into my my professional career. Basically, I just want to make that change, and that change happened in 2017. Okay, when I joined Talk. Initially, I joined as an SEO analyst, which is essentially what I've been focusing when I started working, or at least when I started playing with digital marketing. SEO was my initial focus. So this was back 2009, 2010. And I joined Talk on that capacity as an SEO analyst, and I remained as such up until 2019 January, when things changed a little bit, the structure changed a little bit, and then I was eventually invited to take the role of team lead, so performance marketing team lead, and that gets us to today, basically.
Awesome. And we'll dive straight into it then. SEO is one of those things where it's a dark art, or not a dark art, but it's a bit of a dark horse. Pretty much everyone that's been in marketing in some way, shape or form knows the term SEO, but it's like almost a little bit of a dirty word. It's not that often that you'll hear like a CMO at a Fortune 500 company or whatever talking about SEO or metadata or backlinking or anything like that. But it's a part of the world where big fortunes, multi-million-dollar fortunes have literally been won and lost on SEO strategies and the successful failure of them. And I reckon if there's one part of the industry that's changed the most, it's SEO. The difference in the SEO approach, in now 2020 versus 2009, or earlier, even when they were literally just stuffing backlinks, when marketers could print money just with backlink stuffing. I think it's evolved so much, and so I think it would be really great, particularly because this is a really strong component to your skill set. I think it would be really great if you could just give us a rundown for marketers out there that may not be up on the detail, just around, I guess, first and foremost, what is SEO and why does SEO really matter for any business?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So yeah, SEO was basically invented at the same time as the search engines. So Google, Yahoo, Bing, all those major search engines that we all know. So basically, SEO is a practice which aims to increase both the quantity and also the quality of the traffic to the websites through search engines. And it's important here to make a distinction, okay? Because we do have SEO, and we also have another acronym that most people are aware of, which is SEM, search engine marketing, okay? The thing is that SEO relates to all the organic traffic that is coming from the search engines. Okay, so when we go to Google and we type and search for something, we'll see that at the top we'll get a list of results that are advertising. Okay, and those are result of SEM campaigns. Okay, so those are all paid advertisings. And so SEM is related to that, whereas SEO is really just about the organic results, or the results that are below the paid advertising at the top. And so essentially that's pretty much it. Everything that we do with SEO, the main goal is really to well, one must say that the end goal is always to get more revenue. Okay, if we have a business and we are doing SEO, then obviously we want to increase our sales or whatever that may be. But I would say that SEO in specific, it deals mostly with trying to get more traffic from the search engines. Okay, that's naturally will result into more sales eventually, depending obviously on your website. But essentially that's pretty much it. Okay, we want to, whatever we do, we want to get more traffic from Google, and we want to get more sales out of it.
Yep. And you know, something that I find so interesting around, like just around SEO and organic ranking in general, something I find really interesting is so many businesses, they'll say, oh, I type this search term into my search bar in Google, and I want to be able to come #1 for that search term, and that's their whole focus. And so that's keyword ranking, which is very, very important, but they don't really give enough regard to, you know, how many people are searching for that keyword. Is it even worth ranking for that keyword for your business? And I think that's one of the biggest, to your point earlier, that's one of the biggest challenges with SEO is some businesses think that it's a bit of a vanity play for them. So it's about, I want to be #1 for this keyword because I want to beat my competitor or whatever. They don't think as much about what's the business strategy behind SEO, i.e. I need to rank for these keywords because it's realistic to get ranking for those, and there's a healthy search volume for those. That's a really big misconception around SEO. Have you got any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. We if we essentially, if we look at Google in this, because Google is the biggest search engine, so essentially when we talk about SEO, 99.9% of the time we are talking about how to rank high on Google. Okay. Yeah. How to achieve the first position of Google. That's like the holy grail for anyone doing SEO. And yeah, so it's all about rankings for keywords, and obviously the search volume associated to those same keywords, right? Mm-hmm. So like you were saying, we really want to focus our efforts into getting rankings that are attainable. Okay, because the fact of the matter is that most rankings, most keywords, or at least the most famous ones, are really hard to achieve a top position, because usually those are taken by the major platforms, such as, for example, Amazon. I'm pretty sure people are aware of the fact that when they search for a product and they look on Google, that most likely you'll see Amazon at the top. There's a reason for that. And so the game of SEO, so to speak, it's all about, like you said, trying to figure out what is the intent behind a search term. Okay. And also looking at our current website, looking at how well it performs. Okay, how is the user experience with on that website, and then try to determine whether it's possible to achieve high rankings for that keyword or not. Okay, so the first step is really try to understand what are the most valuable keywords for your business, but obviously trying to do it in this context. Okay, so if you are a lawyer, for example, and you want to rank, so you are, I don't know how it's the term in Australia, I guess is driving under the influence, right?
Yep. DUI.
So you have a big UI, exactly. So you have a big industry on that, on the DUI lawyers. But obviously, if you are a lawyer and if you are working on that industry, you can look at that keyword and you see, okay, so this is the one that I want to rank the top of Google for. But obviously, this is just half of the picture, right? Because, okay, you determined that this is the highest value keyword for you, perfect. But now let's take a look at your website, okay? Let's look at what is the search volume associated with this keyword, and let's look at the websites that are ranking high on Google for that search term, okay? And more often than not, it's exactly like you said. You have these vanity keywords, you know, that businesses want to rank for, but they don't really know about, or they don't really know much about SEO and the effort that is put into trying to rank for keywords, let alone trying to rank for highly competitive keywords, such as that one, DUI lawyers, for example. So it's really a hard game that businesses need to be aware of, because obviously the organic traffic is still the most relevant on the internet. So I guess it's roughly a little bit over of 50% of all the traffic on the internet is coming from is organic traffic. So it's coming from the search engines. So immediately you know that when you are dealing with SEO, then you are really working on that percentage. Whereas, for example, if we compare SEO with SEM, SEM, I think it's roughly 15% of all the traffic is generated through SEM campaigns. So immediately we understand that, you know, even though you may have ideas of running SEM campaigns, and that's perfect. But at the end of the day, we really need to start focusing as well on your SEO and trying to establish your website in order to start ranking for more keywords, hopefully highly related keywords to your industry, right? And to your services and products that you are selling. So you cannot just go one way or the other. I mean, currently it's not really easy to just go SEO or just go SEM. I think that the best approach is really to try to mix a little bit on those two fronts. Okay, so working a little bit on those both on both of those channels. And so yeah, SEO is really important. Also because SEO, when you get those rankings, they tend to be more long lasting. Okay, and I think about them as like getting dividends, okay, out of an investment.
Digital dividends.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. If you are investing on an SEO campaign, having those rankings and trying to maintain those rankings, which by itself is also a challenge, especially nowadays. But we can look at them as dividends. Whereas when we just go with an SEM campaign, the moment that we stop the campaign or we've hit the we've used all of our budgets on that campaign, then immediately all that traffic goes away. So obviously SEO is long lasting, or at least it's longer lasting than SEM campaigns. And yeah, it takes effort, it takes time, it's a slower game. Google is getting increasingly hard to work with and to achieve those high rankings. But that being said, SEO is still one of the backbones of digital marketing.
And what are your, and what do you sort of see as the basic SEO framework? If I was a business owner or a more traditional marketer that hadn't looked at this space before, what are the basic components that I need to look at to start to work on to generate SEO organic growth?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So let's say that you really don't have a lot of experience or any experience at all with SEO. Okay. Let's just assume that you're just starting out. Even though there are a lot of tools out there that will surely help you and assist you along the way during your SEO efforts. And I would encourage you eventually down the road, if you really think that you should be investing into SEO, which I highly recommend to do. But eventually down the road, I would encourage you to look at those tools, because they can make our life really, really much easier. But as a starting point, I would say, to put it very simply, if you don't know nothing about SEO, I'm not going to get into the details of how to do keyword research, because that by itself is a very big subject. Okay, but assuming that you already have a keyword that you have determined that you are able to rank for. Okay, so let's skip that part, even though it's very important, but we're not really going to focus on that. So assuming that you have that keyword, I would say that the easiest way to go about it is just go on Google, type that keyword, and just look at the top results. Okay, let's say just look at the top 3 results and look at the pages. Okay, and then what you can do is you can just with a sheet, a Google sheet or an Excel, whatever, you can just look at the content and start taking some notes. For example, let's say you have picked your keyword, you have done the research on Google, you are looking at the top ranking website or web page on Google, and then ask yourself, okay, so do they have the keyword on the title tag? Yes or no? If it's a no, then that's a good sign for you, okay? Because usually the title tag is considered to be the most important element for SEO. Okay, so that's definitely the place where you want to include your target keyword. So let's say they don't have the target keyword on their title tag. Perfect. So you just put an N or no. And then let's look at the copy. Let's say that it's, for example, it's a blog, it's an article about whatever the topic is, doesn't really matter. So let's say it's just an article. Look at the length of the article. Okay, so let's say that they have a 1,000 word length article. Okay, and then your page is just 500. Okay, so perhaps you want to increase the number of words and increase the size of your article to match a little bit more with what you see on the top position. Okay, so the goal here is really just to list these several elements, because if Google is ranking that page on the top position, is for a very specific reason, right? And most likely is because it is really answering to the questions that the users have. Okay, and this is really the crucial element to it, is that whatever you do, you really need to make sure that if you have an article or if you have a product page, it really needs to answer the questions that the users already have. Okay, it really needs to answer to those answer those intentions behind those searches. That's really the crucial element here. So the idea is that you want to turn your page more similar to the one that you see on the top positions of Google. Okay, so moving on. So you've just looked at a title tag. You look, for example, at the length of the article, for example. So if it's 1,000 words and yours is just 500, then that's a good indication that probably you're not really covering all the topics that the users are expecting to find on your page when they are searching for that query. Then look at the headings, okay? The H1 heading, which is the one that usually you see on the header of the website. And look and see if they also contain the target keyword there, okay? That's also a very important element to consider, to include your target keyword. So if they don't have it, then once again, that's a good sign for you, because that's an easy one. You can most likely just create a headline that includes your target keyword, okay? So moving on, we have the title tag, we have the length of the copy on that page, we have the headline, in this case, the H1 headline. You can look at the URL, okay? So if you look up on your browser, you see the URL of that web page. That's usually also a good place to include your keyword. So once again, take a look, see if they already have it or not. If they don't have it, then once again, this is a good sign for you, because it's just another element where you can just be ahead of them in terms of optimization for that particular keyword. Another thing that I would encourage also to do is just search for that keyword on the copy of the page. And usually you'll probably find it like one or two occurrences of that keyword, perhaps more, perhaps less. It really depends. But once again, you really want to make sure that, let's say, that they have 5 occurrences of the target keyword on the copy. Then, assuming that you've just increased the copy of your page to also match the one that you're looking at, so both have the same length, so 1,000 words, and let's say that they have 5 occurrences of that keyword, then you probably also want to make sure that you also have a number of occurrences of that keyword to match that one. So 5 keywords also, or 5 times. So these are probably the elements that are most important for SEO. Okay, so try to look for similarities. Try to look for the second position. Okay, the web page that is currently sitting second position of Google. Do the same work. Try to compare against the first position. Probably you'll start to find some patterns. Okay, and even though this is a very basic approach to it, okay, but the idea here is that you want to turn your page to be more similar to the ones that are on the top of Google, because once again, Google gives you the answer of what he likes to rank, okay, and what the users are expecting to find when they search for that query, right? So it's just really a matter of trying to mimic what the others are already doing.
Yeah.
But obviously we are just looking at very specific elements. But once again, you really want to make sure that the content on your page, the imagery on your page is relevant with that topic. You want to make sure that you are covering all the subtopics associated with that main topic or query. So there's a lot that you can do here, okay? And I would say that this is probably well, even though it's an approach that really takes a lot of time, and that's why I'm telling that it's good to count on some tools to help us out on this process, because this can be really time consuming. And I've just referred to a few elements, but the fact of the matter is that there are probably dozens or even hundreds of elements that you probably should be looking at and comparing.
Yeah,
Okay.
the famous sort of line is that there's anywhere up to 500 ranking factors in Google's ranking
Yeah.
algos, and then our SEO project plans could have 50 different line items in them, tasks in them, and then each of those tasks has anywhere up to 10 or 20 subtasks. So you're talking about
Exactly.
hundreds and hundreds of moving pieces, which is just such a big sort of workload to straddle and be across the detail of.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, we are just assuming that you've that you've picked the right keywords as well, because this is really the first step that you should do when you're starting an SEO campaign, is really figuring out what are the most valuable keywords, figuring out what rankings you already have, and perhaps starting working on those rankings. So instead of trying to rank for new keywords, then I would recommend just playing with whatever you are just already ranking for, and trying to improve first on those keywords before moving over to new keywords. So this is just the basic, this is just one aspect of SEO, which is the on-page elements. However, we can break down the on-page elements, which is relating to the content of the page, and we can break it down into two subcategories. Okay, so in one hand you have content, which is pretty much what we just touched on, and you also have the technical side of it, which is as important as the content side of it. And the technical side of it, it really requires a little bit more understanding of the inner workings of websites and how the internet works, okay? Because under that umbrella of the technical SEO, we have four pillars, okay? So we have, in one hand, we have the accessibility of the website. So if you look at a pyramid, okay, we could put the accessibility to the website at the bottom, okay, because at the end of the day, even though these may seem, just logic and obvious, but the reality is that if you have a website, it needs to be the users need to be able to get to browse it, right? So accessibility is at the bottom, because if your website is not accessible to the users, then there's no point in having a website at all, right? And then you can consider, so you have accessibility, and then you have usability, right? Because assuming that the users are able to reach your website and open your website on their browsers, then the next logical step is we need to make sure that they are able to work with the website. Okay, so we need to make sure that the links are working, the buttons are working. If we have widgets, we need to make sure that they are properly working. Okay, so usability. And here we can also consider some elements such as the loading speed of the page, because we want to make sure that we have a fast website. We don't want to have users waiting for 30 seconds before they can start interacting with your page. That's a big no-no. And then we have accessibility, then we have usability, and then we have crawlability. And this has to do with the concept of crawling. Okay, so to put it simply, search engines such Google, they rely on these crawlers. So these are small programs that essentially they visit the websites and they just collect all the information on those websites that they then feed to their searching, the ranking algorithms. So we need to make sure that the website is crawlable, okay? That those robots from Google or Bing or Yahoo, they are able to reach our website, visit all the pages, and collect all the data, all the content, okay? And then at the top we have the indexability. So once the websites are crawled and Google has all the information about them, then we need to make sure that Google is able to index them on their database, because it's this index database that is going to be used by Google to create those result pages that we see whenever we go to Google and search for something. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, those are all very important elements. If you are starting out and you have very basic knowledge about this, I would say to just make sure that, for example, make sure that test your website. Okay, so open your website, navigate and browse through the pages. Make sure that everything is working as expected, especially the events that are closely related with your your business goals. Okay, so if your goal with the website is to get more sales, then obviously you need to test and make sure that the checkout funnel is working properly. Okay, and here is really important to it not just on your also using other devices, such as, for example, your mobile device. So you really want to make sure that it is working properly both on desktop and on mobile. And obviously, well, we could talk about a lot of things here. One very important aspect to SEO, and something that we've already touched on the CRO presentation, is that we really need to have access to data and to all the user data on the website. And for this here, we really need an analytics platform. And once again, I highly encourage going with Google Analytics, because it's just free and it has pretty much everything that you need to help you out on your digital marketing efforts, not just on SEO, but pretty much on anything you do on digital marketing. And then some other quick tips. Look at the images on your website and optimize them. And what I mean by this is, more often than not, when I look at a new website, they really have big images with really enormous sizes, right? Like 5 mega of you know, an image of 5 megas in size, which is just way too much, and there's no need for you to have such a high quality image, even though quality is important, but not to that point. So I would recommend just going ahead and compressing those images. This is you know, a very it's a quick win, what we call a quick win.
Yep. So you're talking here really about, you're talking about the components that are going to give you some quick wins, or some faster SEO growth, as opposed to the slow burn. Because a lot of people complain about SEO, they're like, oh man, it's taking 6 months to get anywhere with this.
Yep.
Which is true. Generally, SEO does take a long time to rank and index all the work you do in the search engines. But there are some things where, if the stars align a little bit, like if you're in an industry where SEO is not super advanced and your website's quite outdated, there are a few things you can do to get some of those quick wins.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's exactly it. So compressing the images on your website is really a quick and easy win, because once you do that, you'll realize that your pages will be much faster loading on your devices. And Google, by the way, he really loves fast websites, so that's a big factor for SEO. Another one is ensuring that you are providing a secure version of your website. And I know that this one is a bit more technical. I understand that, but still, if you're using WordPress and you are using some of the hosting providers that you'll see once you do a quick search on Google for WordPress hosting providers, you'll get access to a lot of documentation that will help you out doing a lot of what I'm talking here. So ensuring that you provide a secure version of your website. What I mean by this is when you land on websites, you'll notice that it will have like HTTPS, for example, on the URL. Okay, so that means that's a secure version of that page. Whereas if you just see the HTTP protocol, then that means that it's not really a secure connection. So I would highly encourage you to just provide the secure version of your website. Once again, there's plenty of documentation out there to help you out with this. So yeah, once again, make sure that the content is aligned with what Google is expecting. Okay, that's a big one. And once again, just a word of caution here. If the target keyword that you've picked, if you search on Google and you just see product pages, so let's say that you see just Amazon related Amazon pages, and you are trying to optimize like an article, then that already tells you something, right? Because if you go the first page of results on Google for that query and you mostly see just product pages and you're trying to rank an informative article about the product, then you can immediately understand that Google is not really looking to rank that type of content. Okay, so you want to be aligned with what the users are expecting. Because once again, if you see product pages listing on the first positions of Google, and mostly product pages, then there's probably a buyer intent behind that query. And Google understands that users are not really looking for information about the product, and that they are mostly looking to probably buy that product. Okay, so you also want to align and make sure that you are comparing apples to apples. Okay, you're not trying to rank a peer on a query that is relating to apples.
Yeah, that's like really trying to think about SEO in the overall online funnel or sales funnel, and try to match your content activities that you're using to get ranking growth. Try to match them to, like you said, buyer intent. So if you're trying to sell something on a sales page, you really need to focus your SEO strategy around devising, or achieving ranking for that based on sales information, i.e. the intent for the user is to buy something for a page like this, as opposed to an informational page, which you'd put higher up the sales funnel. So really in that situation, in that context, what you're actually just trying to do, and this comes right back to the start where I sort of see SEO sitting at the moment, is you essentially have to mimic what users want. If you give users a really good user experience and you tick all of the technical SEO boxes and the content SEO boxes, your chance of ranking is much, much higher than if you're running them through rings unnecessarily.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And this takes us to the final, so once again, just finishing with the major components of SEO. So we touched briefly on the on-page elements, and then under that category, you have those two subcategories that we touched on. So content and the technical SEO, or the technical side of it. Okay, and then we have also the off-page SEO. Okay, so this relates to all those off-sites signals to your your website. And
Yep.
mostly when we are talking about off-page SEO, we are really talking about things like backlinks. Okay, those are probably the most important ones. But we can also talk about, for example, signals coming from social media. Okay, so if you have links coming or mentions coming from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so all of those signals, Google is looking out for them. Okay, and he is aware of it, and they all play a role, a very important role on the rankings. Okay, so it's really a combination of very several different elements. So on page and off page, and it's really a balance that eventually will hopefully, if done correctly, lead you to have a higher or lower rankings for specific keywords.
Yep.
But once again, I would just highlight on what you said, because it's really the most important thing that we should focus on. If anything here, if we want to take anything from this conversation, is that the content is the most important thing that you should be focusing on. Because if you really have a website that is really answering and ticking all those boxes and really answering all the questions that the users have on their mind when they are searching for that query, then that's already a big step forward in having a successful SEO campaign.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, my friend. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and we'll catch up again soon.
Perfect. Thank you
Cheers.
so much.
Bye.